When I came down here in 1988 for the first time, that flag was a symbol for me. It was a comforting feeling of being accepted and what they thought was being loved. But now I see that flag, and to me, it's dipped in blood, because all those people I knew, all those young boys that came here, they're all dead of AIDS, suicide, drug overdoses. They're dead. They're dead. That flag is alive. A lot of the guys are willing to let you use their home for free to shoot a porn film if they can stay there and watch. So a lot of these homes are really nicely furnished, and they have nice views of, the city. So you could shoot a film here for free. And, we'd shoot here, maybe like a scene on the street here or whatever, down by the park. I shot porn films outside on Folsom Street during the Folsom Street Fair, out on the street, public street, with other people watching. Because San Francisco's not like any other city. You can, especially in this community here, the cops really won't. They won't take you in for being on the street nude. They won't take you in for performing a sex act on the street here, because this is just, I'm gonna park right here, I think. This is a very gay-controlled city, and this community is gay-controlled, so they can do what they want. There was nothing extraordinary about me as a child. I read comic books. I felt safe in my neighborhood park, playing there. And I knew that my parents loved me. And I understood what love was. But at the age of 8, something dark and sinister and evil entered my life, although at the time I couldn't have understood that. I went looking through my brother's dresser one day, and I found a Playboy magazine. And even at that young age, I was interested in women. I was interested in girls. At that moment, I was hooked, and I didn't know it. And a whole world of just fantasy opened up for me. That's how pornography drew me in the first time, was just through that magazine, Playboy magazine. And as my brother got older, and he started buying more explicit types of pornography, like Penthouse, and then Hustler magazine, I was being exposed to those things as well, because I was looking through his dresser or his closet, or where he kept those magazines, and I was being exposed to that. And the type of images in those magazines were much more explicit, and they were much more hardcore. More vulgar types of nudity, even lesbianism. And by then I was becoming a young man. I was entering puberty. When you watch pornography more and more and more, and I looked at it every day practically, I was masturbating every day, you tend to become much more inward looking. You tend not to relate to the world that you're in, but you tend to start living just in this fantasy world of pornography, of this false beauty, of women, of nakedness, of free sexuality, and it leaves you always with an empty feeling, though. It left me wanting more, wanting something else, wanting something more exciting. You know, as an 18-year-old boy, this is where I first came, right here. You know, I wanted to find myself. I wanted to discover who I was. I wanted to find out if I was gay, if I was straight, if I was bi. And what I quickly discovered was that an 18, 19-year-old boy was very much in demand down here by a lot of older men in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s. And they were more than willing to take me in and be a father figure and take me home and abuse me. As a boy, we lived behind my father's business, and most of his employees were men, and they kept pornography in the men's restroom. So I was also going there, and they were bringing very hardcore forms of pornography in magazines that I don't even remember. But I would go over there and, you know, lie that I had to use the restroom, and I would be in there looking at pornography, even masturbating there, because they were supplying my growing craving and my growing desire and my obsession with seeing more, what was becoming more deviant forms of pornography. By then I was probably only about 12 or 13 years old. And then at about that time, you had the home video revolution, where the VCR was introduced and you could watch films at home. I was able to start purchasing hardcore X-rated videotapes by sending cash through the mail. And once I started watching videos, I didn't want to look at a magazine because I wanted everything to move. I wanted the action and the more detail and more explicitness that you get in X-rated videos. So by the time I was 18, I had amassed a pretty large collection of X-rated porn. One of the tragedies is during that time, the probably the biggest star of pornography was Tracy Lords, and it was revealed later that she was under 16 when she did pretty much all of her films. So essentially, I was a child watching child pornography, and it had an incredible effect on me. I couldn't relate to girls my age. I couldn't relate to women because I saw them as just sex objects. I didn't see women as a human being, really. Because my cravings and my obsession with porn had become so keen that something like male-female sex was just boring to me. I'd seen it so many times, different girls. So I started craving lesbian sex, menage a trois, a guy with two girls, or a guy and another guy and a girl, just all these different setups that and pornography offered these things to me. These things were available. It resulted in me becoming very confused about who I was sexually. I didn't know if I was straight, gay, or bi, because I was attracted to so many different sex scenarios in pornography.
Just tell me what happened there.
I just walked by somebody I used to do some porn stuff with. It was weird. Because it's been, it's been it's been a long time. It's just, I guess the only way, I've been able to deal with it is just sometimes you got to kind of compartmentalize and, uh, it's like it was somebody else doing that, and in a way it was. That was before my conversion, and it was somebody else. But when it hits you in the face, you realize, hey, it was real. you know, uh, but God humbles us and reminds us sometimes of our past and what we did, and to keep us humble, to keep us close to Him, and to always know that we need Him. I was not satisfied with being a porn consumer, viewing pornography. I wanted to. I really had to. It was that strong of a drive. I had to become a part of it. So I went to San Francisco, and where I went to the Castro, which is the gay quarter of the city, and I knew there were sex clubs there. I knew where there were porn shops, and I started becoming a regular and viewing pornography there. Um, it was a scary place at first. Going into dark booths and watching porn and masturbating. And one day people started walking into, my booths where I was watching porn, these private booths. And it was dark, and guys started having sex with me. And, at first I didn't know how I felt. I was like, this is weird. I don't think I'm gay. I don't want to be gay. Um, but they were performing sex acts on me, and I thought, well, what's the difference? I just didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know who I was. So I started going to prostitutes. I started picking up female prostitutes off the street. It was dangerous. You had to worry about, getting picked up or by the police. Some of these girls were, pretty messed up, drug addicts. And it was expensive too. Uh, and it just wasn't working for me. So I went back to the gay ghetto in the Castro, and sex there was free. I could, any night of the week, I could have someone have sex with me, and it didn't cost me anything, and they would do whatever I wanted. Where a lot of times when I was with female prostitutes, there was just certain things they would not do, or it would cost me a lot more money. So it was just an easy way to sort of fill this void within me that I didn't know I had. That I was lonely. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be loved. As an adult, as a man, I didn't know what that was, and I thought that's what it was, because that's all I had grown up with was porn as a kid, and sex brought happiness, and I thought sex was love. At some point, I don't know if I accepted that I was gay, but I just resigned myself to it. I guess that this was the life that I was going to live. And this is where I belonged because I met, I met boys, guys, men from all over the world, really, here in San Francisco. And we all kind of had similar stories. We kind of grew up alienated or questioning who we were, lonely, um, not ever really sure of ourselves. So we ended up here really looking and searching for security, for really it comes down to just looking for someone to love and to be loved. And it gets twisted into sex and more sex and very deviant forms of sex, although I didn't know this at the time. Because like a drug addiction, I mean porn is that way. In the beginning, I mean something like Playboy, when you're a little boy, I mean that excites you. You see a naked lady and you go, wow, naked lady. And you get excited, you can't believe it. And sooner rather than later, you start getting bored with all that. Another naked lady, or you want to see her do something. You want to see her maybe with a guy, or you want to maybe see her with a girl, and then you want to see her do something more hardcore. Maybe get beat up, get slapped. When you get into doing porn and being in porn, it's the same thing, because you show up to this stuff, and for a guy, you can't even get excited because it's just nothing. It's just nothing you haven't done 1,000 times before. So when somebody would tell me, "Hey, we're gonna set up this scene where, you're gonna be tied up, or you're gonna be beat up, or you're gonna beat somebody up," or I'd say, yeah, I haven't done it. I'm in for that. And that's how it just got harder and harder and more hardcore. I was about 19 years old, and I started getting hit on right away by men that were older than me, 40s, 50s. To me, that was, very old at the time. So I went with these men, and they wanted sex for me. But they did give me a sort of false sense of my masculinity, because it felt like becoming part of something larger than me, of like a family. And if I sensed that somebody liked me and that they gave me love, I would do almost anything for them. And usually very quickly, these men would start making requests on me to have sex with their friends, to go to sex clubs with them, to go to orgies with them. And a lot of times they started videotaping us having sex. Just for their own private use and for their friends. And I was okay with that because, I was a lost soul. After about 2 years in the gay life, I would say I was pretty burned out. I had done pretty much everything sexually that I could have done. Multiple partners, gangbang, bondage, bareback sex with no condoms, even though this was at the time of AIDS. I was really questioning what I was gonna do. I had been raised very nominally Christian and not really ever having a relationship with Jesus, knowing of him, but he was very distant to me. And I just questioned, but I felt like I had gone too far. I had made the choice, and I couldn't turn back at that point. I just felt that this was it. that this was my fate. And Jesus was just not somewhere I could go, because I just believed that it was too late for me at that point. So I went further. I kept going. The Folsom Street Fair is held every year, the last Sunday of September, and they close Folsom Street, down for the gay community, and a lot of the porn companies set up there, the fetish companies, sex clubs, the pubs, the bars, the dance clubs, they all set up booths there, and a lot of them do, I guess you could say, performances, or they do demonstrations, on the street. You can be nude, you can have sex. I had anal sex, I've had oral sex, on the street during the Folsom Street Fair. The most just for your FYI, just to show you how bad it gets there, the most extreme thing I ever saw there was a guy, and when I was a young guy, I was like, what the hell, but that's how the devil works. I mean, he can turn the most sick stuff, because he gradually gets you into it through porn, is where you start getting a taste of it, and you start craving more hardcore things, and before you know it, the stuff that you were going like, oh man, that's sick, look at these sick guys doing this stuff, and you're thinking, oh man, I'd never do that, that's disgusting, that's gross. And then a little while later, you're doing it. You're doing it. You're that guy that you thought was sick. When things became very darker for me was when one of the older men that I had been seeing requested that I perform a sex act with a friend of his on video. And it was pretty extreme, but took me to a place that was somewhere I had never been before. It was scary, but it was powerful, and I wanted to explore that, and I didn't know what I was getting into. And not long after that, the guy that shot that private party, if you want to call it that, let me know that there were pornographers here in San Francisco looking for new meat, or somebody new, just to do solo videos where you were by yourself. And I said I would do it. I didn't care about the money. I would have done it for free, because at that point I wasn't happy. I was always looking for something. I was bored, and I just thought, why not? And I did it, and it felt good. It felt good to be wanted. It felt good to be valued, and it felt good to be praised. And I wanted to do more. And of course, in pornography, you can't just stay still. Things don't remain static. You have to do something else. So I started doing videos with other men, more than one man, and then it turned into doing very sort of mild, scenes of punishment. And then it got into bondage. And that was something that I had seen before and I thought was really crazy. And I thought, it's something I'm never going to do. But the thing about pornography is that something that at one time shocks you, even disgusts you later, will actually become enticing because it's somewhere unexplored. And that's what that scene held for me, is that I didn't know what I was getting into, but I knew down deep it was bad. But that's what drew me to it. This is where you have the Folsom Street Fair right here. They close this off in September, and you can have sex here on the street. And I shot a movie here where I had sex in a porta potty with someone, and people were watching and taking photographs. And I'm sure this was before all those handheld devices, but I'm sure people were taking videos too. There used to be a porn shop here where they used to shoot porn in the shop too, and I did some stuff here where we were doing it. This guy would just use a lot of young guys just off the street, like me. It was pretty rough. I had welts, blood. I had blood blisters all over my backside. For at least a few days, I had to sleep on my stomach. This is a porn studio. They do internet content here. They do DVD content. They do live streaming content here. They bought this building, I forget for how much, 14 million or something. It's the historic armory building, and you can take a tour of this and you can watch people have sex. They do live sex shows in there. And that is not all gay. They do gay and straight content there. I mean, in my day, it looks kind of run down now, but in my days, it's a really real-known bar. You go there on any given night, because I used to go there a lot, and you go into the public restrooms, into the bathrooms, and there's guys having sex all the time, anonymous sex. Well, we just went back into the bathroom and had sex, and then we finished, and that was it. I didn't know his name, he didn't know my name. We didn't know each other. No, it's open because they have the leather flag there too.
Is that what that means?
Yeah. There's the black and blue flag, and that's leather bondage. That means they do leather bondage there. We shot a lot of these sorts of videos in sex clubs that are here in San Francisco, which are a public place where gay men go and just have anonymous sex with whoever they want. And a lot of times there's dungeons in these places. I felt powerful abusing another person, beating another person. When you're in a life of perversity and promiscuity and sex, you just become angry because there are people that are gonna abuse you, that are gonna abandon you, and there are people that are gonna lie to you to get what they want. And you just become bitter and you become angry. And I did, and I would take it out on these people. And it worked for the moment. Almost as soon as it was over and I'm cleaning up, you start thinking about the next time. You start thinking about, okay, what can I do what am I going to do next time? What can I do to make this, what can I do to make this more hardcore? You just want to keep going down. And you just can't stop. It's like being in a hole and all you can see is the sides of the wall and the dirt. You can't see above the light. You just keep sinking. There was always something in me that wanted something else. I just didn't know what it was. I kept looking and I kept searching, and nothing ever worked. But I liked the sense of power that I felt in pornography. And I started looking into the occult because so many people that were around me were talking about it, were talking about the certain power that sex acts had. And I was interested in this because I wanted my life to make sense, because it had just become meaningless to me. And if there was some sort of occult rule or some sort of ritual or some sort of manual that would make this all fall into place, I wanted that. And at that point, the occult made sense, because what I was doing sexually was all there. It was powerful, it was dark, and I could use it. And at that point, I said to myself, yeah, this is it. This is it. I can control this. I can control what I'm doing. I can control others. And I can make things happen through sex and through pornography. Wow. Yeah, that's where it gets dark. I can't talk about that stuff. Let's see. I'm trying to think how I can say it.
Why?
Well, because I did rituals and stuff, where it was like sex magic, and where I took on the darkness and used it. I used it in porn. I used it when I do want to tell people that, because when I was making porn, I hated the people that watched porn, so I cursed them. I cursed them through the camera that would go and it would destroy their lives. Yeah, it's hard. It's hardcore, and people do that. That's why, I'll tell them that, because I want them to know what they're watching. They're watching bad stuff. I just woke up some days, I felt like I had a purpose, like I had control over everything, that I just wasn't being thrown around, that I wasn't being abused, that people weren't using me. I felt like I was doing it. I felt like I was back in control. And it felt really good. That I could take over. And at that point, I became strong. And people wanted me, and people paid to have me beat them and to have me abuse them. And I liked it. And sometimes it went too far. And I felt like killing these people. Because for me, it was the only thing left. At one point, I was hired by these two men, and something happened to one of them in front of me, and he said, kill him. He said, kill him now. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I went back to doing some cheap porn. I was getting older by now. I was in my mid-20s, and I wasn't the young kid anymore. I wasn't cute to these guys, you know. Yeah, I wasn't a cute kid anymore. You know, I was old. And I looked a lot older than I was. You know, I was burned out. So I was willing to do things that I wouldn't have been willing to do before. And I hated it. But I did it. And I hated the people that were going to watch it. And I hated the people that were going to be at home looking at this. And I threw out every curse I could imagine, and I threw it, and I cast it out onto the camera. And I pushed it, and I pushed it. And I prayed to Satan that anyone who came in touch with this would be destroyed, because I wanted everybody to suffer. I wanted those people to suffer like I was. At that point, I really felt it was over for me. I didn't want to live, but I didn't want to take my own life. You know, I dreamed up. Things got so sick for me that the scenes in the porn I was doing were so violent that I wanted to be murdered. I wanted somebody to murder me. So I started going to the parks in San Francisco, where I knew that some really rough characters would pick up guys for sex. And it's funny because 10 years before, you know, I was about 18, 19 years old, and I came to the city and I saw these fellas in these parks, and I knew about it, and they were called trolls. And I said, wow, these people are disgusting. I'll never do that. I'll never sink so low as to be like them. And that's what I became. You know, I became what I hated, what I said I would never become. That's where the devil's payback brought me. Let's see, I haven't been down here in so long. Yeah, they used to call this the fruit bowl because it's kind of like a carved out. And on a weekend or on a Sunday, this is just filled with guys. And I used to do all my tricks. I used to do tricks here towards the end when I wasn't doing too good. You know, the devil had me so twisted that at that point it was the sicker the better. I'm gonna have to puke. This is so good. Okay. Whew. This is famous Dolores Park here, or Mission Dolores Park. And in the summer, especially in the summer, it's a big gay hookup spot here where everybody just comes out and lays out, looks at the view of the city, and you can hook up here. Over here, there's places in the trees and in the bushes where you can go have sex, kind of quick. This is where this is where I got picked up and the guy tried to kill me here. I just would go out and I would just let anybody pick me up. Usually the grosser or the more disgusting the person was that picked me up, the better. And one guy picked me up here, and I knew it wasn't good because he was just weird. And I'd been around a lot of lowlifes and a lot of crazy people, serial killers and perverts and pedophiles. He was just really normal to a degree where it was creepy. And he took me home to his place, and he wanted to do some stuff that I didn't want to do. And he ended up putting a knife to my throat and cutting my throat. And at that point, I didn't care. I told him, go ahead. I said, do me a favor, kill me. And, for him, that was it. The thrill was gone and he lost it. And he let me go. There's a lot of little places where you can have sex in here, all in here. There's all kinds of places where you can have sex under the bridge. My relationship with Satan was pretty strong, and I knew that I had become not really useful to him anymore. And I knew he was going to get rid of me. So I said okay, and I purposely let men pick me up that I knew were going to beat me up or were maybe going to kill me. And I had sex with men that I knew had AIDS because I thought I could get AIDS. Thought that would be another way to go. And kind of as a last resort, I heard about a porn video being shot, and I kind of didn't want to do it, but it was going to be so extreme and so hardcore that I said okay. I showed up, and it was rough. And I was already pretty sick at that point. I had had an STD that I didn't take care of. And that night, okay. Oh, jeez. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. Ooh. Oh, okay. Whew. Whew. Okay, it's a little tough for me because that video I did was one where so I don't think about this stuff. So when I go back, I all the sensations come back, so I start heaving, and I feel like I'm gonna barf. Whew. Okay. Wow.
Okay, well, you don't have to.
Oh, it's okay. I gotta do it. It's okay. I do it once and it's over, and then I go have a drink. It's not a big deal. Whew. Okay. Yeah, God gets me through this. So. And it's not that I feel bad about it. It's just, in my mind, I gotta, take myself back to that. So my body's kind of thinking, wow, Mm. Okay, wow. Okay. That night, when I was done with that shoot, I went home and I got really sick. And I was vomiting blood and I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. I didn't know what was wrong. I was scared. And I went to my mother and she took me to the emergency room. And they were giving me these plastic bags, clear plastic bags, and I was filling up one after another, after another, after another, with just pure blood was coming out of me, out of my throat, and I just kept vomiting, and I didn't know what was wrong. And finally, I was just so sick, and that I laid on the bed, and I knew I was dying, and it was weird. I was just kind of like, okay, I'm dying. I was like, this is it. And it was just kind of just a fading away. I was just fading away, and I was happy. I was like, this is good. I don't want to live anymore. And I didn't think about anything. I didn't think about the devil. I didn't think about God. I didn't think about Jesus. I didn't think about what I had done. I didn't think about my family. I didn't think about me. I was just leaving. And my mother was there, and I saw her, and she was praying, and I got crazy. I got angry. I said, what is she doing? How could she do this? Why is she doing this? I hate God. I hate Jesus. I hate prayer. I hate her. I hate everybody. I don't want this. I don't want prayer around me, I just want to die. And got pretty different after that. I was like, this isn't good. This isn't good. I felt evil everywhere around me. And I went, oh man, what's going on? I just was being pulled out of my body hard. And I was like, what is going on? It was surreal. And I could see everybody around. I could see the nurses coming around me. And I was like, what is going on? I go, this isn't good. And I got really, really scared. And I got so scared. And I knew I was going to hell. And I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go. I was like, wow. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, I don't know where it came from. It's strange. Jesus, Christianity, God was not a part of my life. They never crossed my mind. It just, I didn't know who I don't know. It was something of my past. I had been raised Florida Christian, and it was just, it was something buried. And all of a sudden, I can't explain it. I just said, oh God, I said, Jesus, please. I said, Jesus, please help me. Please. I just said, please help me. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die like this. And it was gone. They were gone. It was that fast. I just called on Jesus' name, and it's all it took. It was that fast, and everything was gone. I was back in my body, and I didn't know who I was. I was like a little kid again. I was like, what happened to me? What happened to me over the last 12 years? I didn't know. I didn't know what had happened to me. And everything changed at that point. Everything. I just felt like a different person. I didn't understand what I had done. I didn't know why I had done it. I just knew that it was over. And I knew it was like getting another chance. And I just was so thankful. And I was so grateful. And I've never looked back since then. God just, at that moment, God took me in his arms, and the Lord Jesus Christ just bathed me in his blood, and I just was healed. And I knew if I just knew I wasn't that person anymore. It was over. It was just over. It was over. And it hasn't been easy. But I always trust in God. And I know that even through all of those years when I didn't believe in him, when I didn't want him around, when I gave him up, when I prayed to all these other gods, I knew he was still around, and he wanted me. And he waited, and he waited. And when I called on him, even though I had become something that I didn't even want to be, he still wanted me, and he still loved me. You know, when I came down here in 1988 for the first time, you know, that flag was a symbol for me because, you know, this was, and I met men and boys from all over the world, everywhere that you could imagine, and they all came here because a lot of them grew up abused, neglected, bullied, alone, feeling isolated, and you know, I could relate to that. And they all came here because they felt the sense of community, of being, you know, among their own kind. And although that was also transitory, you know, it did have, it was a comforting feeling of being accepted. And what they thought was being loved. And that's what drew so many here. But now I see that flag, and to me it's dipped in blood, because all those people I knew, all those young boys that came here, they're all dead of AIDS, suicide, drug overdoses. They're dead. They're dead. That flag is alive, because this place does not heal anyone. It doesn't bring anyone love, true love, salvation. It covers everything over with this fake, you know, this fake mask of happiness and sexual freedom. And all these young boys that come down here, what they're left with is a broken heart, sexually transmitted diseases, drug addiction. That's all they're left with.
What if next weekend the doors of your church building were chained shut? Would your faith survive? Has Sunday morning church attendance replaced a vibrant, living relationship with Jesus Christ? Have we lost the essence of true biblical Christianity? We've traveled the world filming testimonies of ordinary Christians seeing signs, wonders, and miracles as they take the gospel of Jesus Christ to the lost. Ex-radical Muslims are planting churches, miraculous healings are testifying to the gospel, and unbelievable God stories are emerging from around the globe.
I believe that Jesus died on the cross for more than good Sunday morning services.